So how do you know if your boyfriend is gay? So many women have this question, and depending on the situation or scenario, the answer is going to be different. I'm going to answer that question in two specific scenarios, not because I know what it's like to be gay and not because I've interrogated a bunch of gay acquaintances, but because I'm a straight man and I know exactly how we move and how we think. I'm sure I have an idea of what we don't do, which invariably will lead you to the conclusion that he ain't straight. So welcome to Perspective and another episode of Unqualified Advice. I have a few more scenarios from the files of Reddit, and as your favorite qualified relationship guru, I'll be giving you the perfect answers to these specific scenarios. Be sure to add your perspective in the comments, and if you like or dislike the video, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And as always, do subscribe. Without anything further, let's get into the first scenario. All right, first scenario, 55-year-old male with a 45-year-old female. Is my boyfriend gay? What do I make of this text thread? Girl voice. I have a suspicion that my boyfriend is either gay or bisexual, and I really don't have anyone to talk about this with, except one girlfriend who is sworn to secrecy. My boyfriend had shared text with a guy, which I saw. As I mentioned in a previous post, my boyfriend had already invited the guy back to our suite without my approval, and I had to ask him to leave. My boyfriend wanted me to give him a blowjob and possibly have sex with him. My boyfriend was very drunk, and he told me before that this was his fantasy. Well, I just saw text the other day where he is communicating with the guy from the night, and the guy is telling him he is coming into town to visit and wanted to meet up with him. He texts back, "Sure, I'm around." The guy says, "You are just as hot as your woman." He says in response, "Let's meet. I'm in town this weekend." The guy says, "Is your girl in town? Can it be just us?" He says, "Call me with details to discuss." Then it says that he missed a call and asks him to call back again. The guy says he will, and my boyfriend says, "I need to verify you are who you say you are." I was already trying to comprehend what happened with him asking me to have sex with another man. Now I'm wondering, do you think that he's gay? Look, women have to be careful with men that have this desire to share them with other men, period. I'm admittedly biased to this notion, as I would never do this, and it's not my intent to shame anybody's sexual proclivities or kinks. But men are typically territorial when it comes to women they love, and when a man has a desire to share you, it's akin to objectification, the type of objectification that intends to degrade to the point where she's no different than a tool that a man would loan to his neighbor. So lady, if your man wants to share you, that's a red flag. I shouldn't even have to mention the cryptic conversation that she discovered in his phone. The obvious compliments that the man paid to him aren't what I'm referring to. I'm talking about the part where he says, "Call me with details to discuss." He missed the call. Then he asked him to call back again, and he says, "I need to verify you are who you say you are." Listen, that's him trying to cover his ass until he's positive that it's this dude trying to give up some ass or get in his ass. And that's neither here nor there. The point is that the phone call is a means by which to make sure it's not some sort of setup.
You're going away for a long time.
Frankie, you too? You are like a brother to me. Louie, you are my actual brother.
Ladies, please end this insatiable need that some of you have for absolute verification of what you know to be true. That boy likes boys. Now, let's get a little deeper. No pun intended. I'm talking about this particular dynamic. This isn't about a man's sexual preferences. This is about the lie. This is a very dangerous situation for reasons that are actual factuals. When a man is participating in sex with a man, he's partaking in the most at-risk sexual activity there is. These are facts. This is not a shot at gay men or the LGBTQ community. I'm talking about at-risk sexual behavior among humans, period. Homosexual sex between women is the least at risk. Heterosexual sex is more at risk than that. Homosexual sex between men is the most at risk of all. Facts. When a man is partaking in homosexual sex in secret and still having sex with that woman, he increases her level or likelihood to contract sexual infections or disease. So fellas, please stop lying. If you like boys, just go like boys and go be with boys. And for any of you, and by boys, I mean adult men, I don't mean children. And for any of you fools that want to say, well, they can still catch something if a man is cheating with a woman, don't. Y'all shut the hell up. Of course, a man can transmit disease and infection from woman to woman, but as I stated, which is fact, the risk factor is higher when he's stepping out with a man based on the fact that sex between men is riskier. And her situation isn't about a man cheating with a woman. It's about him cheating with a man. If it was a woman, I'd mention possible transmission of disease along with outside pregnancy. Pregnancy specifically, because that's specific to women. So I mentioned the high risk factor because it's more specific to sex between two men. Got it? That's me covering my ass in case some of you want to get in it based on something I said.
What the hell are you talking about? I am a boy.
My advice is simple. You don't need to verify anything further. Cut him off and go get a full STD panel to make sure your sexual health is in order. All right, this is another scenario where a woman is questioning her boyfriend's sexuality. All right, I found my boyfriend on a gay hookup site. This should be kind of obvious, but let's see. My boyfriend, 24-year-old male, and I, 25-year-old female, have been together for 4 years. And the other day, while I was trying to help him figure something out on his phone, I stumbled across his profile on a gay bi-curious hookup site for men. I didn't mean to find it. I wasn't snooping. I had absolutely no idea anything like that would be on his phone. When he saw that I saw, he immediately grabbed his phone and said it was something for work, but I could tell he was lying, so I went and looked up the website and figured out what it was. I even found his specific profile where he describes himself, listed himself as curious, and listed specific things he was interested in trying. It took 3 times of me asking him about it before he admitted what it was, and when he did, he swore that he only got it because he was interested in what anal penetration felt like and wanted to ask someone who experienced it. He immediately deleted the profile and the website and pleaded with me to believe him. He claims it was a stupid mistake and he was just curious, and that he had made it less than 24 hours before I found it. We talked about it for a long time. I even told him that if he was curious but didn't want to out himself yet, that we could break up and I would tell everyone it was over some stupid fight or something like that, so he wouldn't have to out himself yet. He promises me that he isn't gay or even questioning it. But how can I believe him when he lied to my face numerous times right before all of this? He's never lied to me about anything like this before, and it crushed me to see how quickly he was able to lie and try to cover it up. I want to believe him so badly. I've known since early in our relationship that anal penetration was always something interesting to him, and we've talked about it and talked about bringing it into our relationship at some point. Most of his story honestly makes sense to me, but I can't stop myself from worrying that he's lying and it's causing me to spiral. What if he was seriously looking to hook up with one of them? What if he actually is questioning his sexual identity? What if he needs more than I'm willing or able to give him in the bedroom, etc., etc., etc.? I do not care about his sexual identity at all, but if he's questioning, that is not something I can help him with. And the last thing I want is to forgive him now, only for this or something similar or worse to happen the next time he gets too curious. I've had a friend whose boyfriend left her after 5 years because he decided he was curious, and I don't want to put myself in her shoes willingly. It is a different situation, but I saw her go through that and I cannot stop thinking about it. I've checked that website every day since to see if he's remade the profile. I'm reading into everything he's doing, and I know that's not okay or healthy at all. It's only been a few days since all of this happened, but I am so lost and confused on how to even go about handling the situation. Our relationship has been wonderful until I found this. We've always been so great at communicating and being able to go to the other person without feeling fear of judgment or anything. So not only am I upset at what I found, but I'm upset that he didn't feel comfortable coming to me about it and that he lied to me about it when I found it. Please help. I'm at a complete and total loss of what to do. So like the previous situation, you have that cloak of dishonesty, but unlike the last situation, the woman already has some answers. She knows that the boyfriend is interested in anal penetration. They've talked about this before, and it's something that they planned on bringing into their relationship at some point. So I imagine that her thoughts were that they'd eventually get to some sort of pegging dynamic. So why is it bugging the life out of her that he's on a hookup site for gay and bi men. Why is that an issue? Because if the man wants to be anally penetrated, he has to be gay or bi, right? Look, by definition of gay or bi, the desire to be anally penetrated isn't the standard. The standard is participating in sexual activities with someone of the same sex. Now, the fact that she caught him on a site that's specifically for gay and bi men is what makes the difference. And I'm not buying that he needed to go on the site to ask questions or do some research. There are plenty of men that allow their women to mount them, so all he has to do is find those men and those couples to get their take.
This is Mistress Vida. We met on Craigslist.
No talking unless I say. Hi, Peter.
How'd she know your name?
Hell, I'd venture to say he can look right on YouTube or some social media forum to get couples' opinions based on their real life experiences. Similar to the last scenario, I'm going to recommend the same thing. Trust your intuition on this one, ma'am. You found enough of a smoking gun to make a conscious decision not to feel bad about it at all. There are plenty of guys that have no desire to have their innards rummaged through by their women. Find one of those and rest easy. All of that anxiety can't be worth it. And like you said, you don't want to find out years later that he's into dudes by him choosing to break it off. And I'm sure you also don't want to find out by him being outed by the undercover lover or by contracting an infection due to him going back and forth between you and some dude. Save yourself now and move it along. Next scenario, 21-year-old female and 21-year-old male. The girl I was dating brought a friend over to our date. The girl I was dating brought a friend over in our date and asked if her friend could have a seat in a corner for her security. I replied it was okay and her friend is welcome to join us because, and I joked, I am happy to date two pretty women. Then her friend joined us and we had an amazing time. After the date, I insisted on paying for all of us, but my date asked if she could pay for her friend because she brought her friend without asking me. After some back and forth, I said sure, and she paid the bill for her friend, and we all happily parted ways. I see many people's advice here is to leave the date if the girl you are dating brought a friend over. Did I do the right thing? I think I did, because from girls' perspective, it is sometimes a risk to go meet an unknown person alone. But I am still wondering if I missed my chances with her. Then he comes back and he edits the post. We already arranged the second date just between us, and she's more excited than me. So yeah, let's see where it goes. All the people saying that you should have just left are probably a bunch of dudes and they're a bunch of idiots. She didn't bring her friend as a third wheel for a free meal. She brought her friend because she was meeting a stranger for the first time. This is smart on the woman's part, and I absolutely recommend that all women do something like this. We constantly tell women to be more careful and accountable for their own safety out here, and then here comes a gang of mouth breathers flocking to social media to talk trash about them for taking countermeasures to ensure their own safety. That aside, she offered for her friend to just sit away from the date. You invited her over, she joined you guys, and your date insisted that she pay for her friend's part of the bill, even though you offered. You did the right thing, my man. And from your update, you're already planning a second date, and she's excited to see you again. Well fucking played. Look, you dudes out here that are all damaged and distraught from failing on a consistent basis need to stand down. Every woman isn't trying to shake you down for a free meal for themselves or anybody else. Of course you shut the whole situation down if the woman invites her homegirls without making sure you're okay with it. But this ain't that. And all the comments suggesting that the dude should have ditched his date, who was obviously just taking safety precautions, y'all are a bunch of miserable, brain-dead lames. We have a 29-year-old female struggling with dating a 35-year-old single dad. I have been dating a single dad for about a month now. I haven't met his kids yet. He has a 6 and 1-year-old. I constantly feel jealous when other people talk about his kids. I hate that I get jealous, but it's so hard knowing he has a whole family with someone else. And him and his baby mama are close, which makes it harder for me, even though I'm happy that his kids have parents who get along. Also, from what I hear, his son is really hard to handle. Like, he doesn't discipline him and spoils him like crazy. Always buying something for him, but then doesn't have the money for him and I to go grab dinner or something like that. Basically, I'm worried I'm falling for someone that's going to end up hurting me intentionally or not. I also don't want to get invested in someone who has a whole other side of them I haven't seen yet. I don't want to date a man who lets their kid do and say whatever, because that's not how I plan on raising my future kids. How can I get over this jealousy? Who's been here before? How can I reassure myself to stick it out and see how it goes instead of getting scared and running away before I ruin something that could be good? Why do so many people need reassurance to stick it out? I understand that familiarity is comfortable and nobody wants to invest their time and energy into something without the reward that comes with the end. But you're trying to make a decision about what you need to do based on the outcome you want, when a lot of times you need to make a decision based on what's happening in the moment. Right now, you don't feel good about it for some very good reasons. You've heard that his son is difficult to handle and that his parenting style doesn't mesh with yours, or it doesn't mesh with what yours would be. That's very fair. Your jealousy is reasonable because you want to be a part of his whole life. Now, I don't expect a person to introduce their children to somebody within a month's time. That's not wise. Yet I do understand you wanting to get the full picture before you totally invest. If you wanted to work with this guy, you have to be patient about having complete access to his life and everyone in it. That takes time. However, you don't have children, and I do not recommend anybody who doesn't have children of their own pairs with somebody who has children. Avoid the ready-made family dynamic. There are plenty of guys out here without children for you to pair with. You can have all the conversations you need to with such a guy, and you can ensure you're on the same page about raising children and what it looks like to you. You do not have to consider what somebody else does with their children and how that will affect what you both do with yours in the event that you have children with them. Leave whoever's baby's daddy that is alone and go find a single guy that doesn't have children. Last scenario, 27-year-old male. I recently stopped using social media apps like Instagram, TikTok, etc. And I find it really refreshing because I started living in the moment and focusing on what's now by not wasting my time on social apps. My question now is it weird to not have social media apps at all? And what are the chances of finding someone who doesn't use those kind of apps either? So you stopped using social media, but you're on social media asking about the chances of finding someone who doesn't use social media. Okay. The irony in that. But anyway, well, there's about 8 billion people on the planet and 5 billion of them use social media. If we're considering the whole world, then every other person or somewhere about that number is what you can expect that doesn't use social media. But I'm sure there's a deeper dive into these metrics, right? How many women versus men, particular location, age demographics, so on and so forth. And then you get down to your own preferences like physical appearances, personality type, it's just so many things that weigh in that, you have to consider as to whether or not you're going to just find people who aren't on social media. But I'm pretty sure they do exist. I'd say just go out and meet women the old-fashioned way. It's easy to see, at least from a first encounter, if she's buried in a phone or some other device. Try libraries and bookstores. If they're not locked onto a device, I'm sure that narrows the chance of them actually being on social media. I do find it interesting and even admirable that there are people that live their lives free of social media and just live from moment to moment. Living in the moment gives you a certain level of awareness and observation that many probably don't have these days. Use that to find your type. I don't think it's as difficult as some would imagine. So yep, you're going to find what you're looking for. And that's all I have for today's episode of Unqualified Advice. Don't forget to add your perspectives in the comments. If you liked or disliked this video, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And as always, do subscribe. Until next time,